Between eviction laws that protect squatters, rent control, and other anti-landlord laws, the state of California is at war with landlords. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. Alright, so I have an interesting article for you today, and it's coming out of the state of California, and it has to do with just all of the anti-landlord laws within the state. It seems like every other day there is some politician somewhere within the state of California trying to come up with some solution. They believe it's a solution to their housing problems, okay, and mainly the affordability issue. And they think that the culprit, the reason that the rents are high is the landlords. They believe that landlords are greedy and that they're only raising rents because they are just looking for profit and they want to keep the poor person down. No, that's not true, okay? The truth of the matter is that the housing costs are super high in California because, one, it's a very, very popular place to live, okay? There is a very high demand for housing there, yet the supply is super low. The reason the supply is super low is because they do everything possible to make it very difficult to build there. They create zones where you cannot build housing. They put tons of regulations on the development of housing. They make you jump through so many hoops. They make the process take a very, very long period of time. And so what we end up with is a situation where there are a lot of people who just will not even deal with the state. They don't want to deal with the problems there. They don't want to deal with the bureaucracy, and it costs too much for them to even participate and build that housing that they so desperately need in California. So rather than using landlords as the scapegoat like they currently do, what they really need to do is eliminate a lot of these regulations and make it easier for people to build. You know, like passing new laws isn't going to make things easier. Removing a lot of those old garbage laws that make development and make renting property so difficult, that will be the thing that truly helps. So before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like, subscribe button, maybe leave a comment down below and let me know what you think. What do you think will actually help make housing more affordable and more available within places like California? And this isn't, you know, just a thing that is only in California. We've seen this all over the country, even in places where I live and I invest. The more regulations, the more difficult they make it, the more anti-business that they are, the less housing is available and the more expensive the housing that is available is, okay? So what do you think will actually make a true difference in providing that affordable housing? You know, like one of my ideas has always been, oh, well, make it easier for us to build mobile home parks, okay? They make it very, very, very difficult to build new mobile home parks. So if they allowed it, just find an empty plot of land, run, you know, the necessary utilities, the sewer connections up there, and let them put 1,000 mobile homes on this big empty plot of land, and boom, we got instant affordable housing. But no, they won't let you do that. They will not let you do that because they consider mobile home parks to be a blight. You're not thinking about the people who, you know, they need to live in these sort of places because that is all they truly can afford. But anyway, I'm just talking about something completely off topic. Let me get into this article. This article is coming from cityjournal.org, and it says, California versus landlords. Between squatters and rent control, Golden State property owners are under siege. Yeah, and you know they're under siege because I've been talking about it for years now. You're probably dozens, if not hundreds of videos about how property owners in the state of California are just basically getting screwed. Anyway, let's see what this article says. Californians have complained with good reason about their astronomical rents. One obvious cause is the state's inability to build new housing. Another reason, less often discussed, is that the state makes it increasingly difficult for landlords to earn money from renting to tenants or to remove unpaying ones. Many of California's rental housing woes trace back to the so-called Tenant Protection Act of 2019. The law requires landlords of properties more than 15 years to have one of several specified just causes for removing a tenant, even if he has stayed past the end of his lease. If landlords can't meet the terms, they must help pay tenants' moving costs or waive the final month's rent. Last year, the state expanded the law, letting tenants sue landlords for up to 3 times any damages and attorney fees. Tenants know they have the upper hand in any removal proceeding now, which is exactly why landlords are paying these tenants to leave rather than even attempting to go through the court system. It's not worth your time or your money. Instead, you can pay these tenants. Yeah, it's going to be a hefty payout. Pay them to leave, get your unit back, and move along your business. And you have to, add that expense into the cost of doing business, which is part of the reason why rents are so high. Landlords are now having to add these additional expenses of doing tenant payouts or going through this extremely long eviction process. So that's going to cause there to be, 1, fewer landlords who want to even deal with it, and 2, those who do deal with it are going to charge a lot higher rents. Now, the bureaucrats, it never occurred to them, or the politicians, it never occurred to them either, when they were passing these laws and implementing these laws, that this would be the side effect. But it is. It's a very negative side effect. So let me continue. The government's response to the pandemic worsened landlords' headaches. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention had instituted a national eviction moratorium, which the Supreme Court struck down in August of 2021. California, however, kept its eviction pause in place until June of 2022, while locally, San Francisco and Oakland did so through much of 2023. Los Angeles' special renter protections, including a rent freeze, didn't expire until early this year. The end of those moratoria created a predictable flood of eviction notices, which are still working their way through and delaying housing courts. That backlog and the state's absurdly Byzantine rules have enabled tenants and squatters to stick around indefinitely. According to California law, if someone has lived, even illegally, in a place for 30 days, a landlord must complete a formal eviction process to remove him. If a landlord serves the tenant notice to leave and he contests it, the law says a hearing should be scheduled in a few days. In practice, however, hearings are often put off for months. Yeah, the backlog caused by the eviction moratorium has really made it even longer. Okay, I mean, I read about these nightmare stories about it taking months to years to remove some tenants in California. I read about that before the pandemic. So imagine now, after there's this huge eviction court backlog, imagine just how long it could take. And we have some landlords who didn't get paid anything throughout those years when those eviction moratoriums were going on. So yeah, this is a very bad position to be placed in, and it's brought to you by the government of the great state of California. The court process itself often leads to further delays. State law gives tenants the right to request a jury trial, and some places like LA allow them to demand a free lawyer. Even if the tenant loses the suit, landlords sometimes have to wait months for an eviction warrant to be issued. If the tenants convince the sheriff that they have a humanitarian reason for staying, they can get more time before they are forcibly removed. The result of this ordeal is that landlords must wait months to evict a non-paying tenant or even a squatter while they fail to collect rent and their properties get degraded or destroyed. And you know what? I know what people are thinking. They're like, oh, you know what? This is some multi-million-dollar corporation who, they've got plenty of money to be able to handle a few tenants who are not paying rent or whatever, right? The problem is that you would think that is the case, and it's not, okay? The majority of landlords in the state of California are small mom and pop landlords who own maybe one property, okay? They are the people who are truly suffering when you pass this sort of law. They're the ones who can't get rid of that tenant who hasn't paid rent in months, if not years. They're the ones who are declaring bankruptcy or having their property foreclosed by the bank because they weren't able to make their payments. They're the ones who are sitting there and, you know what, they feel like the government hates them. And you know what they're going to do? They're going to no longer rent those properties out. So I've mentioned before that small mom and pop landlords, ones who own, like one property or a single family house, they are the ones who are providing the majority of affordable housing. Not the big corporate landlords, okay? The smaller landlords are the ones who are providing the grand majority of affordable housing. They also are providing the grand majority of single family rentals, okay? So if you know what? If these people, they leave the market, there's going to be less single family homes available to rent. And more people will end up with their only option being large apartment complexes owned by huge corporate landlords. You know what? I can't really say that I feel sorry for the people who put this in place and now they're complaining that their rent's too high, because you're the one who thought that, oh, you know what, the laws of economics, the laws of supply and demand, they don't apply. We're going to put these laws in place and that'll solve all of our problems, without doing any research on the topic and just using your feelings and emotions in order to pass these laws. And so I feel like a lot of these people who wanted rent control, a lot of these people who wanted these strong eviction protections, they're getting exactly what they asked for, okay? They're getting worse situation than what was before, okay? So anyway, this is a good article. It's pretty long though. I'm not going to cover the whole thing. I suggest that you read it. So I'm going to put a link to this article in the description below, and let me know what you think of this whole thing in the comments. Do you believe the state of California is literally at war with landlords? Do you think this is a plot by the socialists who really just hate capitalists, who hate property owners, who hate business owners, and are trying to make California more of a socialist state? What do you think is going on with this?